Voca-P is designed to be a Vocaloid-centric podcast where we cover multiple mediums in entertainment, but all while keeping towards the Vocaloid community. If you do not know what Vocaloid is, then stick around for this podcast. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. I'm Demosthenes, or you could just call me Demo for short. And my co-host is the deathcore Vocaloid producer, Whisper-P. I did mention that Vocaloid is primarily music, right? Because it is. This is the Vocaloid Podcast, episode 001. Enjoy! Hello and welcome to Voca-P Podcast, episode 001.
We getting into the good stuff.
Oh yeah. Demosthenes over here in this corner, and in the over corner, we have...
Whisper-P, baby.
Oh yeah. We'll throw down with some big topics here, just for your entertainment. Alright.
I'm not a good fighter.
I personally am,
I am
because
not a good fighter.
I've been in a few fights myself, but that's not the point of the conversation. First we're going to get into the decline of Vocaloid metal. And then we have the Western community is ignored by Japanese. And then we have unknown artists and their self-confidence. And that will also tie into the fame and ego of greater artists. And then we'll finalize it off with the censorship of media.
Yep, we got some pretty good topics for you tonight. So, I guess we'll just jump right in.
Yeah, and we'll try to keep this between 45 minutes and an hour, because that's apparently the best time for a podcast. Or so I'm told on iTunes. We'll talk about that later on in the...
I like episodes that are like 2 hours long. Helps my workday go.
Yeah, I don't really know anything about podcasting right now, so we'll talk about that at the end of the... I want to say video so bad, but it's not a video, it's an audio. It's a podcast. Okay, so, what are your views?
Well, my views?
Yeah,
on Vocaloid metal? Or just views in general? Because I could spit out some major views of mine, but I don't think you want to hear them.
What are your views, Whisper, on the decline of Vocaloid metal?
Well, seeing as how I'm a metal musician, I can't really call myself a musician, but since I'm a Vocaloid metal producer, I tend to keep up with that part of the community a lot. I look for new artists all the time. I am always listening to Vocaloid metal, whether it be, Voca-P or Voca-P or Shiromeshi or just whoever. And I just noticed over the past couple of years that, Vocaloid metal has been slowly declining to the point where it's almost non-existent now. All of the metal artists that were big in the early 2000s are now doing other projects. They're becoming DJs like Voca-P did, or they're just, disappearing like Shiromeshi did. I actually follow him on Twitter, and he's been tweeting video game stuff, like MMO that he's been playing in Japan for a couple months, and then I haven't seen a tweet from him in like 6 months now. So I just noticed that Vocaloid metal as a whole has been just vanishing, and it's making me kind of nervous for the community itself, because without the different genres of music, especially metal music, Vocaloid can become very stale because there's not enough access points for people of, varying musical tastes to get into it, because some people might not like to listen to pop music and they don't want to have to listen to J-pop, but they find it really interesting to have a synthesized vocalist doing vocals. Well, they love, let's say somebody loves metal music, right? They love metal music, and they find out that there's metal music within this niche genre of synthesized vocal music. Well, the less producers that there are for that niche genre, the less access points that music fans have to get into Vocaloid itself. And I want to see Vocaloid metal grow. I don't want to see it decline. I don't want to be one of the only active, musicians within our community. There's a lot of talent out there, and it's just vanishing. And it makes me really, scared for my subgenre within the Vocaloid community, especially because I'm not that big of an artist. So seeing the bigger guys just kind of vanish, it might push me to the top and be like, oh, well, Whisper-P's still active or blah, blah, blah. But I don't want to see those big guys just disappear. I don't want to see anybody in my part of the community disappear, because I want to be able to do collaborations. I want to be able to do remixes. I want to be able to discuss our side of the community with other metal producers. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just really, it's kind of scary thinking about how the decline of my favorite genre of music within an even more niche part of music itself is just disappearing.
Yeah, we need variety in this community. That's how it helps us grow.
It's all about variety, like you said, but without that variety of metal musicians performing within Vocaloid, you get a lot of pockets of like dubstep or EDM or pop that then become very stale because nobody's really experimenting. And I've been wanting to experiment with my sound of music along with collaborating with other artists. I want to do a remix of a metal song with a pop artist and see how that goes, see what we can create and see what we can do to a song to make it more interesting and more vibrant of a genre within a niche genre.
Yeah, like one of those, some of those CDs that come in, I forgot who makes them, like Pop Goes...
Punk Goes Pop?
Punk or metal.
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
I love those albums. Those are so cool.
Yeah, I've heard so many.
One of my favorite songs is Still Fly, the cover by The Devil Wears Prada.
I know that one. Yep.
That band said they will never do a song like that again because it's not really their style, but it's one of the coolest songs that the Punk Goes series has released.
Yeah, it's because they experimented. I mean, come on.
If you have, and I'm pretty sure you have because we were talking about it, if you have listened to their new album, Transit Blues, that is the true Devil Wears Prada. That is my favorite album they've released. And yes. I can't stop listening to it. If you listeners like metal music and you haven't heard their new, the Devil Wears Prada's newest album, give it a listen. It is so amazing. So, I want to do a really cool collaboration with an artist where we might do kind of a remix / cover of a song, but not really make it like a dubstep remix or an EDM remix. I want to do something extremely unique. I want to take the original song's feel and the like emotion and power that it has and add like EDM elements to it without really making it super dancey or super poppy. And I also want to try adding Vocaloids to it to see what we can do as a community, like as artists, using a synthetic vocal program to try to take a song that's about like aggression, that has a very aggressive / dark feel, and make it more accessible to the EDM or pop fans, but also still keep that feeling of aggression and darkness. It's kind of a process right now because I've been asking people if they want to collaborate with me, and I've only gotten 2 people to respond to me so far, but this is a future project. I just really want to see other producers that usually don't work within the metal genre kind of reach into the metal genre without having to go too deep into it. I was talking to Ghost Data, and he said that he was really big into metal when he was younger, but he's gotten out of it, and that's one of the guys that I really wanted to do this collaboration song with, because he has this specific kind of feeling in his music that's poppy / EDM / dubstep or whatever subgenres of electronic music you want to call it. But he also has this really cool way of making it a little darker and a little more emotional, if that makes any sense.
There's a certain mood to it.
Yeah, like he just has this certain mood to his songs, and also his album covers really play off of the darker toned visuals. Like, he has dark symbols and triangles with like a ram skull or something, just something that looks kind of like the occult. So I was seeing if he wanted to do this collaboration song, but he said no, he wasn't into metal anymore and whatever. So I'm looking for other artists.
Aww.
Yeah, sad day.
Yeah. Well, I hope you find one. I really want to hear that.
I will. I'll find somebody. It's just going to take a little while. I mean, it's a collaboration with internet musicians, so it's going to be getting on Skype, trying to figure out what to do, me jabbing away at my keyboard, trying to figure out some sort of darker toned synths, and then them jabbing away at their keyboard, trying to figure out how to make it dancey, and then us trying to figure out how to do Vocaloid tuning and whatever. But, it's going.
I was taking music and in college, and basically the number one thing you have to look for if you want to create a dark toned music is look for something called the trichord.
Yes.
And then play it backwards.
Yes. I've actually learned a lot about music in general from listening to another podcast, so that's one of the things that got me into wanting to podcast, is just learning things and seeing what people have their opinions on,
Yeah. You can also get any inspiration from movies, like horror movies. They have this certain feel in their music. Kind of have to make it your own, though.
Look at my album that I made based around Destiny, the video game. I wrote all of the lyrics based around the darker tones of Destiny, not the space magic or adventure, the these alien creatures are here to kill us.
The Vex.
We need to defend ourselves kind of, tone. So, yeah, I take a lot of inspiration from movies, anime, video games, other music. In fact, the book that I'm writing, while I'm writing, I'm listening to music, and depending on what kind of scene I'm going for, I play specific types of music. Like, I was writing a scene where the main characters were flying around in their airship. So I had like a really upbeat, kind of floaty feeling, electronic song to make it feel, while I was writing, to make it feel like I was there with them, or I was watching a movie or something, and the song would help me, describe what was going on and helping me get that specific mood.
Yeah, I do the same thing, but a little differently. I mean, I just look at a title of the song and I'm like, oh, that's an idea for a chapter. Literally, I wrote an entire chapter.
You wrote an entire chapter based around the song title?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Amorphous' recent album, Under the Red Cloud. It was the first song. I was like, oh, that's an epic. I haven't even heard the song, and I wrote an entire, I want to say 8 pages, but I'm not sure. But anyway, it was pretty good. Then I heard the song, I was like, oh, yes!
Yeah, a song that's really been inspiring me lately is the DJ Joe and Paper Blossom, I believe it is, remix of AZ Lies from I'll Know Zero.
Oh!
I just finished the anime.
I haven't watched
it. It is so good. Like, it ended where I wasn't pissed off about the ending.
That is very hard to do.
Like, it has an actual ending. An anime with an actual ending is extremely rare to find.
And it has 2 seasons?
Yeah, I was very surprised when I watched it. I stopped watching it after the season finale of season 1, and I had to get on the internet and look up if the season 2 was worth watching, because season 1 ends so abruptly and just so, I don't want to say badly, but it's one of those endings where if it was like just a 1-season show, you would have been pissed off. Hey, at least nothing is as bad as the Madoka Magica movie.
Oh.
That thing pissed me off more than anything. I was furious while I was watching that. I was like, you guys took a character that made complete and total sense for what she was doing the entire series and just flipped it upside down and said, F you guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fair.
Yeah. I prefer the series.
Dude, when I watched it for the first time, I watched an anime review of it, and the guy that was reviewing it didn't really spoil anything, so I was like, okay, he says it's pretty good, he says it's a must-watch show, so I'm going to watch it. It surprised me. I started it, and I was like, this is so girly, and then episode 3 comes around, I'm like, alright, I'm in, you got me.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm a fan of this.
The first 2 episodes, I was like, oh man, this is just a kid's show, but okay, I'll give it some leeway. And then, the clown, well, never mind. I don't want to ruin anything.
Well, the show's been out for several years now. It's fine.
It's like it's so abrupt that it just changes the mood and just turns it on its head.
You want to know something else that's really abrupt and changes on its head? The Western community being ignored by a Japanese community.
Oh yeah, you're right. Maybe we should ignore them.
I'm trying to segue this.
Yeah.
No, let's not ignore them. There are some great musicians out there.
Yeah, except there's one problem. The Japanese community of Vocaloid, I'm telling a lot of people helping commercialize smaller artists. I mean, I got an email from some lady. She was looking at my website, and it was written in half Japanese, and so I had to go translate it, and it said, we have been looking over your site, and we would love you to put out this newest album from a little Vocaloid producer. I'm thinking, okay, so what's his name? I never got anything back.
Nice. That's really helpful. I mean, we are trying to help the little guys here, but you don't give us any information, we can't do anything.
Yeah, and then I got another email from someone who actually gave information. It was the Deco, or Deco, how do you pronounce it? DECO asterisk 2, I want to say 7.
I don't know. I just say Deco, so...
Yeah, his new album.
I would just go with that.
Yeah, they sent me an email about his new album. You could even have the option to get pizza boxes if you buy the album.
Pizza boxes?
What is the use for that?
What's that? What?
I'm serious. Pizza boxes. You'll look it up.
That makes no sense.
Weird.
I mean, what I want to do with my album is I want to include the first couple chapters of my book and have a deluxe edition where I have just an insane amount of people remixing my songs. But pizza boxes? That makes no sense.
Well, it kind of doesn't.
Partner with like Pizza Hut, like Code Geass did.
Well, it does kind of make sense in a poetic way. Like, the pizza box is a disc case, and the pizza is the disc, maybe? And just, like, enjoyment.
I don't know.
Why would you... I don't know.
All I know is that if you're a Western artist, there's very little chance that your music's going to be popular in Japan, which is really sad. Unless you're super, super big, and I'm talking about, like, DJ Joe or Crusher P big, then your music's gonna go nowhere in that community, which, it's just sad. Like, the Japanese community is the one that built up Vocaloids, the one that basically created what Vocaloid is today. And I've just noticed that there's very, very little, collaboration between Western and Eastern producers. There's really only good talk about the Japanese producers from the Western community, but I don't really see any Japanese producers congratulating the Western community. What do you think about it? Because we got to have kind of the same opinion on this, right?
There's a big language barrier.
Well, it's not just a language barrier, because, we have Google Translate. Sure, it's kind of crappy. I mean, I used it for one of my songs, so I don't even know what it's really saying, but...
Yeah.
You can kind of get the gist of what they're saying just by how much Google has tried to make Google Translate better. I just want to see Vocaloid grow in a couple different ways. I want to see it grow to where, it can become more mainstream, but not really break out of mainstream, not like Justin Bieber mainstream, but oh, have you heard this new song? It has a Vocaloid in it. Oh, that's cool, kind of a thing. And I also want to see it where the different sides of the community, the different countries that Vocaloid resides in, can collaborate more or have, discussions. Even though there is a language barrier, we can still figure out a way to be like, hey, this Japanese guy is really good. Let's, talk him up. And then that Japanese guy on his podcast or whatever is like, hey, these English guys are really cool. Let's talk about them on our show. I want to see something like that happen. I want to see the Vocaloid community come together instead of be so segregated and so toxic towards each other, if you know what I mean.
And to an extent, that's why Micah is here. She has 14, I think, voice banks.
That is true.
Different languages.
And I do love Micah. There's no way I'm going to replace her as my main Vocaloid. Her voice bank, her English voice bank, has the perfect sound to it for me to do the really breathy, kind of different growls for my metal music. It's something completely different sounding than what anybody else has really made, and I'm going to try to refine it to make it sound more like Mike Herenica from The Devil Wears Prada, because the way that he records his vocals is they don't process it that much. So it's more of a, what's the word? More of a legitimate version of his
natural
voice. Yeah, it's more natural. That's the word I was looking for, natural. Mayaka is just such a good voice bank, and it's a great step for the Vocaloid community and the companies that create Vocaloids to put out something that every part of this community can get behind, a voice bank with 14 different languages. She could be used in any combination. She can have a trilingual song where none of it is Japanese, English, or Spanish. There could be Italian and Korean or whatever voice, whatever languages she has. There can be an insane amount of possibilities for that one voice bank to get into the hearts of the community as a whole,
Yamaha is doing something about the spreading around the countries, because recently they've given China a big portion of the money to create Chinese Vocaloids. But no, in China, they did what they were expected to do. Spend the money at a brothel.
Yeah, just like a bunch of Kickstarters.
This was when they were creating Vocaloid. Yep. Oh, China, what did you do?
I personally, and I don't want to sound racist or anything, I just don't like Chinese as a language. So I'm not a huge fan of the Chinese Vocaloids that do exist and the Chinese Utos that exist. I do listen to a couple songs here and there that are Chinese, but just as a whole, I'm not a big fan of the language itself. And it's nothing to do with the country, it's nothing to do with the people, it's just the language. I have a hard time really grasping it as something that I could sit there and listen to all day, whereas with Japanese, I mean, I've watched anime since I was a kid. I've listened to Japanese music before I even discovered Vocaloid, so I'm just used to Japanese as a language, and I find it an extremely beautiful language. Whereas Chinese, it's kind of a toss-up depending on what kind of medium of entertainment I'm viewing. If I'm watching like a crazy kung fu movie, it's Chinese, so I'm going to just sit through it and deal with it and not really complain because I'm watching the movie. But if it's a song, it's harder for me to get into because there's not a fight scene, and there's not a plot line. It's just a song, unless it's a really good written song with a good story. But then I would have to read a translation, and I'm lazy.
Yeah.
So.
Or you could find the millions of translated songs on YouTube if they have one. I recently did a top 10 where none were translated. That was amazing. But Chinese is a very complicated, intricate language to learn if you've, grew up in an English home, because, it has a traditional, it has a 3 other types of languages.
Like a casual
dialects, there you go. And not only that,
they have
the tone in which you do it. Like, if you go, in a word, or go, in a word, it means something totally different. I mean, you could be talking about turtles, and the next thing you go, roller coaster!
It's kind of funny thinking about language, because English is one of the hardest languages for people to learn that don't naturally speak it, just because we have so many different slang words and so many different words that are the same word but mean different things, like there, and there.
Yeah.
They are
or your.
Where something is.
You are.
Yeah, your. English is a really complicated language to learn. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
that's why we have English classes in school.
From my English brain, I think that it's the easiest language to learn because I already know it. And I'm pretty sure everybody thinks that. They're like, English couldn't be that hard to learn. I mean, I already know it, but you've been speaking it your entire life. You've been around it your entire life, so. You know what is really hard to understand? The unknown artists and the destruction of self-confidence. I can't wrap my brain around this whole thing. I don't understand why it happens. So, there's this story that I have. I was dating this girl, and she's an Uto owner. She made her own Uto voice bank. And she was telling me about this girl on the Uto forums that was getting bullied and basically attacked for no real good reason, just because people didn't like her music or people didn't like her voice bank. And it got me thinking, why is it that the unknown artists and the smaller artists can make a song and then just immediately get attacked and have hateful comments put on it, or have people just, messaging that artist with just terrible things? It just destroys their confidence and makes them not want to write music anymore. It makes them not want to participate in this community. And as a relatively unknown artist myself, I can look at it from their perspective. I mean, I'm not gonna, take their criticism as an attack, or, if they are attacking, I'm just gonna let it go because I'm very resilient as a person. But I can see how if somebody was just to constantly attack you over your music or about something, how it could make you not want to continue to do that anymore, It's really saddening to see how toxic this community can be to the little artist, whereas with the big artists, they get all the praise and, oh, you're so good, I love your music, and then this other artist makes a song that's, let's say, similar to that one that person loves, and then they're like, oh, you're just copying, it's a ripoff, it's, you're going to get sued for this or whatever. I'm going to make sure to attack this person because I don't like what they did. It's extremely destructive. Vocaloid as a whole, I'm talking about the community of Vocaloid as a whole, seems like it's a pretty cool place to hang out, talk to people who like the same kind of music, but once you get down into the nitty-gritty of it, it can be hurtful. It can be a very, very, very toxic and just destructive place. And I don't want to see that happen anymore. I want to see the Vocaloid community come together as a community, as a family. Raise up those smaller artists, make them feel good. If you're a bigger artist, talk to somebody that's, smaller than you and be like, hey, you're doing a good job. I was in the same position as you were a couple of years ago, and now look at me. Just continue to go, continue to make your music, and continue your dream and your passion, and you'll go somewhere. That's the kind of attitude that we need with this community. We need positivity. We need, understanding. We need love.
Reinforcement.
Yes, we need positive reinforcement instead of just a constant destructive snake biting at you. It's unbelievable that I can get onto Twitter and go through post after post after post of these big artists getting praised, but then a smaller artist posts something that I'm following and people tweet back at them and say that they're trash or, not reply to them at all. I want to see more positivity in the community. And as a unknown producer, but at the same time I'm slightly known, I have some fans, I've been on Vocalective Records, I should start portraying more of a serious role on Twitter, but at the same time, I don't have enough followers for that. So, if a bigger artist out there is listening to this, please, guys, just go through your music history, go through what you went through when you were starting, and think back, and then take those lessons that you learned and try to help somebody that's smaller than you. Try to help somebody who maybe is down on their luck, or maybe says they want to quit Vocaloid because it's getting too toxic for them, Just help people out. I want to see this community grow from compassion and not from some chick on Twitter who says that Vocaloid is garbage and then everybody jumps on the bandwagon to get blocked by her. And yes, I'm talking about Gita. or Gita, or whatever her name is.
Yep.
I trolled that so hard, though. I admit I was a jerk when that thing happened. I do apologize sincerely. I should have been more discreet and more funny about it, but the words that I said were just too atrocious. I am going to start to be more positive instead of more trollish. So, bigger guys or even littler artists, if you're listening, follow me on this. Just let's help out the community instead of destroy it.
Yeah, you can also follow us on Twitter.
We'll do that at the end of the show.
Yeah, at the end. Yeah.
So, with that point being said, I also have to get a little negative. Now, this negativity is not really about the community as a whole, but more about the bigger artists in the community. And I'm talking about fame and what it does to you.
Yes. Like Iron Maiden's frontman Bruce Dickinson said that fame is the excrement of creativity. Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
He didn't say, oh, yeah, but you get the point.
So, it seems like a lot of the bigger artists are a little self-centered, a little too high up there in the clouds. They think that they're the best of the best, that they're amazing, that they don't have to pay attention to the community, they don't have to, give any feedback on the littler guys because they, made it. They're a god of Vocaloid now. I don't want to see that anymore. I want to see the bigger artists take a stand for the little artists. You had your 15 minutes of fame. You have thousands and thousands of followers and millions of views on your YouTube videos or plays on your SoundCloud or album downloads. When a little artist, asks you a question, respond to them nicely, respond to them with, a story about, hey, I know what you're going through, just continue doing what you're doing great. I just really want to see the bigger artists stop being so selfish and so high and mighty in their castle that they believe that they are a god and everything else is an ant to them. I kind of want to know what you think about this demo. I don't want to be the only one here being kind of a jerk to the bigger guys.
Yeah, I want my shot in two, you gotta know that. But what I really want to say is this. Psychologically, fame is the time at which a mass of people love you, and, well, it encroaches to others, furthering the value of your work. People begin to realize you've lost your edge when you become appealing only to a time when they're doing something else, like thinking, or something like that. Never really taking the time to sit down and listen or watch your work. Basically, you're appealing more to your audience rather than yourself when you get to that point in time. And that can be very detrimental not only to your audience, but to you and anyone else wanting to be you as well.
As me being a smaller artist, I can't really say that I've ever felt like that. There was a moment where I posted something on Facebook in a Vocaloid fan page, and somebody commented on it and was like, "Oh, I love your music, keep it up, do good, you're doing a good job." And at that moment I was like, wow, I actually have people who listen to my music. I didn't really think anybody was paying attention. I was just doing this for fun. That's cool that people like my music. I'm very surprised. And I even told that person, I was like, hey, thanks, this is really great, I appreciate this. As a smaller artist, I can't say anything without seeming like a jerk when it comes to, being a bigger artist, because I have not been in their position. But I can look at it from the smaller artist perspective, and I can look at it from a fan perspective as well, where the bigger artists put out something that's mostly made to just get views or listens instead of something that they truly want to create. And as an art form, music should be about what you want as the artist, not what your fans want. But at the same time, your fans are the reason why you're there. So make something for both you and them. Make something that you want to hear yourself, but put the time and effort into it that a fan would want you to put into it. Don't just make a quick, 1 minute long song like I do because I was doing it for fun if you're a bigger producer. Make a 5 minute long song where you poured your heart out into it because this is what you wanted to make. But at the same time, if you do that, it'll show that the fans are listening to it and that that's what they wanted too. Your fans and, the smaller producers are your livelihood when you're a bigger producer, because you're trying to strive to be the best that you can be for your fans and for, the smaller producers who might be your fans. But at the same time, do it for yourself. Make something that you want to make. Don't let fame get a hold of you, and don't let, being popular get a hold of you and thinking,
or money.
Now that I'm, or money. Now that I'm at this point, I don't have to care about my music. I don't have to care about my fans because they're going to give me money anyway.
Yeah.
Look at it from what a lot of bands do. This is going to be a good example because of how drastically this band has changed. The band Bring Me the Horizon, they used to be a deathcore band. They used to be really deep growls, heavy guitar tones, double bass all day, really dark and, bad lyrics. I'm not saying that their writing was bad. I'm talking about like bad subject matter for their lyrics. They changed drastically with their newest album. They went from deathcore to alt rock because the artists themselves wanted to change their style, and that's what they wanted to do. Their fans, whether they started listening to them from that album or from when they started, most of them have stuck with it because they saw the progression of the artist go from a bunch of teenagers making music because they want to make music to a bunch of adults making music because it's their passion. I want to see the bigger producers, instead of being selfish and thinking about only money, thinking about their passion, thinking about, this is my livelihood. I make music. I'm going to make something that's so amazing, something that I would love to hear one of my favorite artists make. And I'm going to make that for myself.
Yeah.
But this song is also going to be for the fans because I'm going to pour my heart out into it. Well, I guess it's time to talk about censorship then, right?
Censorship! Oh yeah. I've got a big wad of paper here with censorship right all over it. But I can't show it to you because it's censored.
Wait, so you have a bunch written down? Why don't you talk about it then? I want to hear your thoughts.
Okay, sure. Well, you do remember the Family Guy dilemma you talked about on episode 0?
Yep.
I found out for a reason under very strict rule of television and media and publication of big studios and also radio. You know the 7 bad words you can't say on television?
Yes.
Well, it's been thrown all across America's medium and even into portions of other countries like Canada or Europe. Except now with, America and all the cultures are progressing very rapidly, it's dropped down to 4.
All right.
And not only that, it's dropped down to 4 because of the laws that were created around censorship. Based on the judicial laws of the nationwide court, only 4 bad words cannot be said on television or radio. And they all have the F and C words.
Yep. Those 2 were going to be my first 2, and then it would obviously be the big N. And what would the last one be? You don't have to say it, obviously, but...
Well, yeah, I wouldn't want to say that too. Well, it's both C's. You know both C words, right?
Yep. I know what you're talking about. Okay. So...
Yep. But surprisingly, you can say the N-word on television if used in correct context.
That's kind of weird. What kind of context would that have to be? Like, would it have to be a black person saying it to another black person? Or would it be more of a historical sense where, let's take Django Unchained.
Both of those,
for example.
Yeah, both of those apply. Now, if you were just throwing it out there like, just a flurry of words, like, that has no reason being there, you can get in serious trouble doing that. But it has to do with the context of it. And that's the biggest problem with a lot of the things that America decides to censor, is the context of everything has to be monitored. And with this day and age, you don't have people to monitor the censorship. You have robots and people, when they're translating from Japan to America and other cultures.
Well, look at what happens with YouTube and their censorship thing, or the copyright claim system, or whatever you want to call it, where it's automated.
The copyright claim system and the censorship system is very different. You can have a copyright. You can only have 3 copyright strikes, which means you have media from someone else, which I do, but I try to keep it under each individual snippet of certain videos under 15 seconds, which is the fair use rule. And then you have the guidelines. 3 strikes on those, and you could be, banned from YouTube and Google+.
Well, what I was meaning is that it's automated. So there's not a person watching your video all the way through. The program looks to see if you have a certain section, like a certain amount of time of an already known song, and then strikes you for that. Or with the censorship thing, where for ad revenue, where your video gets dinged for, inappropriateness or whatever you want to call it, and you don't get ad revenue on that, it's automated. So the right context has to be applied, because if it's not, then the automated system will pick it up, and then you won't be able to, dispute it. You won't be able to fight against the claim because you had the wrong context, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. The biggest problem with that is I have at least 5 videos out of 56 videos, mind you, that have a copyright claim on it. Those are my most earliest videos. In fact, they're my first 5 videos. One of them,
of course,
has a copyright claim on it that shares revenue. Now, the biggest thing on that was I didn't really want revenue or ads on that specific video because it was, I was just starting out and I wanted people to like, I don't want to see an ad when looking at a brand new YouTuber.
That is
I
true.
understand.
On my channel,
it's a big...
I don't think I have ads running, but I don't know. I only have like 2 or 3 videos, so... Well, with censorship coming into play on a bunch of, YouTube channels, television shows, music, censorship is something that I view kind of differently than other people. I have this viewpoint of where if it's art, it shouldn't be censored except for to a point. Like I was saying in episode 0, if it's, pornographic in nature and it's towards, younger people or just a bad situation, like, let's say, a suicide or something like that, it should be censored. People shouldn't have to look at that. But if you're, if you're making a painting and it's of a naked woman and somebody, cries
the birth of Venus.
Yeah, somebody cries that it should be censored, well, it's art. And my viewpoint is that art should never be censored unless it's just so explicit and so out there that it's just too bad to not censor, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. There is a lot of paintings throughout history that have been destroyed because, it obviously trying to censor it, you couldn't really censor it digitally because there was no digital stuff back then, obviously. So they just burn it. Yeah, there were, I heard a story, there was a couple of drawings from Dante's, Dante's Inferno, stuff like that. There are some renderings of the pictures, and some were cut out and completely destroyed because it was just too graphic. Of course, Dante was French. They have a very strict policy on murder and stuff like that. Except when it comes to love, cultures vary. And just gonna leave it at that.
It all differs depending on the culture. It's really something that one person can't define, or one person can't say that it has to be censored, whether it be, artwork or a movie or something, because culturally speaking, it's made by a different culture. A big example of that is the Street Fighter games, and just a lot of video games that come out of Japan, because there have been a lot of instances where some of the outfits that the characters get in those games are not made or taken out of the game when it's being localized for America because it's either too sexist or too risque or whatever. What I'm saying is that for those instances, those outfits or those character designs or whatever should be kept in the game because it's artwork. Now, a video game is kind of hard to define as art because it's an interactive medium, but at the same time, a lot of people take hours and hours and hours to make something that looks good, Like those Street Fighter games are gorgeous looking when you just look at the design of them. All the characters look unique and cool. All of their costumes that you can pick are cool. Even if it's a white bathing suit on a really busty girl, and that's, cut out of the American version, it's still somebody's art. It's still somebody's design that they chose to make for the game. And no matter how much you argue against it, it is still art.
Even the United States American courts view video games as art. It was inducted into the artistry, I guess, in 2011 in Supreme Court.
Video games are hard to really argue against and for because of how different they are compared to the rest of entertainment. Because with a movie, it's not interactive. With a song, it's not interactive. But with a video game, it is interactive. So it all depends on the person playing the video game and what they do in that game with the specific controls that can make it be worth censoring or not worth censoring. I mean, the Street Fighter games, I'm going back to this, is that, there's busty girls wearing very skimpy outfits, beating the crap out of each other. Now, is that art, or is it just a video game? Well, it's hard to define because it is a video game and it is art. Censorship is a really hard topic to discuss and a really hard thing to wrap your head around because there are so many different variables in it.
The context, like if you were playing a video game versus watching a movie, the video game may try to put you in the shoes of something very, very horrible that you would never show in a movie or would never be able to show in a movie. To show the person how this character got through a very, very bad time. Like, bad time as a kid. Well, you can use your imagination.
Yeah, I get
But it's all in the context.
Yeah.
Like if the video game people just put it in there just to do it without no further reward or, well, rewarding for that kind of action may be a little borderline, but with no further meaning but to just be there. That's what I mean, basically.
Yeah. And, that same point can be argued with those games that have the really risque outfits for the female characters. It's like, were they put there just to be put there, or were they put there to allow a player to be able to choose, all right, well, I want to see a girl in a bathing suit? Or
what if they were fighting on a beach?
Yeah, or, what if the character, in my mind, because the Street Fighter games, from what I know, don't really have, an in-depth story of where the characters are, what they're doing exactly, what they've been doing for, however many years. When you're just doing the quick fights, it's just a quick fight. So, let's say one of the characters was on a beach, they're wearing a bathing suit, and then they just get magically teleported to this fighting arena. The player themselves could role play that and be like, okay, well, I'm this character that's wearing basically no clothes and I have to fight this giant armored demon. I can fight this thing in no clothes, sure. It's all about context, and it's all about what you or what the player or viewer of your content gets out of it and what they themselves see in it. And it's really hard to define what should be censored because there's so many different variables and so many different perspectives that different people can take on it. For the feminist groups and for the, just females in general, I can see that a bunch of girls with, giant tits and really risque outfits could be considered sexist and could be considered pandering to the male audience and as being used as sexual objects. But at the same time, you could take it from a different perspective. Let's say you were a girl and you see a girl in a bathing suit with big tits who's fighting a giant demon monster. Well, let's say you don't really care that the girl is in a skimpy outfit. You care that the female there is a strong enough female character to be able to fight that giant demon.
In a bathing suit.
It's really all about your perspective and context. And that, you made a really good point with bringing up context. That just blew my mind, man.
What I found out like Adult Swim and FXX, and even Comedy Central back in the day, gets around the problem of censorship, well, to an extent, is because they have one specific rule.
What would that rule be?
They present media that cannot be replayed on a moment's notice.
There's the sinker right there. They can get around that. They can get around censorship really easily because, let's say, South Park is a good example of this. South Park airs at around 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or whatever time they usually air it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's late enough in the night where kids are usually asleep. And back when there weren't TiVos or anything where you could rewind and fast forward and record the show, they get around censorship because you can only watch that episode once until it's either replayed the next day or, on a marathon a week from now, or until you buy the DVD or VHS.
Yeah, in which you can get either the censored version or the uncensored version.
I would go with uncensored.
Yeah.
Just my opinion.
Uncensored South Park is way better.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I think that'd be it.
All right.
That's it for the whole entire Vocaloid podcast. Episode 1. Number.
Yep,
Wow.
I was just about to say that.
Awesome.
All right. Well, my closing thoughts are just generally what we were talking about. I want Vocaloid metal to come back. I want it to have a resurgence. I want more artists who enjoy metal music to maybe jump on the Vocaloid, bandwagon. I don't really want to be a bandwagoner here, but just jump on it and start making some Vocaloid metal. I don't want to see the genre that I'm part of decline any farther than it has. I want to see it grow. Then I also want to see our community be more helpful and more caring and more compassionate instead of more toxic. I want to see the bigger producers kind of help out the little guys, Even if you're a huge producer and you don't have that much time because you're traveling or whatever, while you're on your flight, while you're, taking a bus or sitting on your, bench or whatever while you're waiting for your McDonald's, tweet at a little guy and be like, hey guy, this song you made is great. I love it. Hope you continue to do this, because with the littler artists, they have a hard time catching their breath. They have a hard time seeing themselves in the bigger artist position, just because they've been torn down so much and nobody listens to their music or whatever. And then, I just want to see our community grow, and I don't want to see it be in this stalemate of toxicity the entire time. And, that's basically my closing thought, is just help out the little guys. If you're a little guy, don't give up. Just continue working, continue moving towards your passion and your dream. Don't give up.
Yeah. I mean, well, I'm not a very good person to go be based off of because I got huge support. So, you'll find your core audience very soon. They just have to find you. Sometimes you just have to reach out and go to them. Depending on if you have enough money for advertisements, which I won't get into right now.
Don't get me started on money. I got no money.
Anyway.
All right.
I think this will be the final end of this very long podcast that we had to do over and over and over and over and over again because of technological problems. Okay, so you can catch us on Twitter. You know me, Demosthenes, at Vocaloid Demo. And Whisper?
You can catch me on Twitter at Justice M. Lauber. That is Justice with an IS, not an ICE. If you can't find me, just look up Whisper-P. I should be there. I have some Japanese letters. It's a redheaded anime guy for my picture. You can catch this podcast on SoundCloud. We'll link the SoundCloud page on the YouTube channel when we post it. You can catch us on YouTube and on your site, Demo.
Yeah, I have actually 2 sites, mav.moe, and of course my main site, vocaloiddemo.com.
All right, guys, thanks for listening.
Yeah, and I think you'll come back. I know you'll come back for another episode of Voca-P Podcast, Episode 2.
The Demoing.